And we are recording. What's up, Cody? How you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I always feel kind of cheesy, like saying how you doing when I first start a podcast. Like we just started talking like 5 minutes ago. I asked you already, but
Right.
that is what it
Yeah,
is. I
yeah,
don't know. It's all theater of the mind, right?
yeah. It's for the audience.
We're just exactly. It's all fan service. So as soon as I get some fans,
Right.
you will be well served. Until
Yes,
then,
exactly.
until then, you wanted. So you hit me up. We've been friends. We met through Zoom chats during this whole pandemic and became part of that
Yeah,
like distance closeness, I call it.
yeah,
And we've had plenty of conversations about mental health, especially like men's mental health, which is, of course, is
yeah.
something that causes a lot of the problems we see in the world, something that no one's really addressing that much. So you hit me up. You're like, hey, let's talk about like what it means for like a man to heal, and like what is masculine healing, and what's that process look like. So I think a lot of the steps
Right.
in that
Yeah.
process are stereotypically not masculine things. So I
Right.
think I
Yeah.
think
You've
talking
talked
about
about
that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and your previous with other people. That's actually what in the group and whatnot. And so, we've got a good group of people through Zoom. Um, I call it my Zoom family, and um, they've been there for me in some dark times and in some great times. So it's been a crucial part, in my in that masculine healing. And just for time's sake, I'll just say when we're talking about healing, masculine healing, we'll just whatnot. But it's a healing process, and if something has to heal, obviously something had to be broken.
Mhm.
And we've both had times of being able to share that with each other and talk about that, and even in the group collectively, um besides just individually. And so, and you're not the only one that I've talked to, in the group and in life. I've I have a great support system. I know, you've talked about your support system.
Which of
So
which you're part of now with that group as well. So there's one thing I want to say like about that group and why I turned my Wi-Fi off real quick. Um, for my phone. One thing I want to say about this group that I like so much is that you do have a bunch of guys in the group that are going to be like, hey, yeah, I was depressed today. I cried in the parking lot, or like, I'm going through this or that. Here's the dirty reality of what it is to cope with some of this stuff as a dude. I mean, people in general, healing's never clean. It's always messy. I mean,
oh
I've
yeah,
got literal scars to prove that the healing is messy, and sometimes it's gross. But
it's
what's
a shitty situation.
yeah, so I
Yeah,
think it's really important that other men are able to talk about it and not be
right,
ashamed of it. In a way
right.
that's like,
That,
hey
that's
man, I understand you, and you're not getting judged because we're so competitive by nature, and it's
right.
always so much posturing and the machismo, and you want to be the tough guy, but
You want to be, if you're not first, you're last. Like
mm,
uh, Ricky Bobby. So like, uh, but that's that. Um, there's that real belief out there, um, and it's just absurd. Or I thought, I've always thought it was absurd, and it is. And I think it's coming to light, and men are trying to heal,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
I think
just
we are seeing a
really,
lot more of that.
yeah. And so as we heal, others will heal. Not everyone,
Right. Well,
but
sometimes like taking those steps to admit you've got an issue or something to heal from in the first place is so tougher, especially for dudes. Like, dude, I push back on the idea of myself having depression or being anxious or having an anxiety. Like in the middle of my anxiety attack, I've only had one really like physically manifesting anxiety attack so far. I get other like physical manifestations. If I only had one thing, I'd really
yeah,
truly classify as like a physically manifesting anxiety attack. And even in the middle of it, I'm like, you're not having an anxiety attack. You're fine. You're tougher than this, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm saying toxic things to myself while I'm going through the result of being in a toxic environment for too long and not dealing with it. So even in the midst of
right,
myself finally breaking, I'm still putting myself down more, which of course is going to spiral the entire situation. So like
yeah.
where do you think that conditioning comes from?
Um, Culture, like society, mindsets. Like I was thinking about it. Like I went back to Missouri recently, beginning of the month, and I just like New Year's Eve night, I had a great time, but like it was the lifestyle that I left, like that whole cultural um lifestyle, and I'm like I'm so grateful where I am today. Like being where I am at right now is a dream come true in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the how it's just grown. Like I've been able to achieve so many goals and found my self-worth and you know uh, and heal and you know how you're saying like the panic attacks and you feel that and I feel that like I there's literally physiological biological whatever scientific term you want to use that physically feel these things that happen up here in your brain, these chemical neurotransmitters that we barely know anything about, but it's beautiful. It's an adventure, uh, and that's what I want my life to be. And
You want to
so,
fully experience all life has to offer, you know. 'Cause, I mean, if you don't really appreciate the peaks unless you've been through the valleys.
right, you feel it both, and and recently, and uh, my so I was talking to you about my going back to Missouri. Um, I had a nephew that sh- passed away, and so it was hard times, and I literally faced like a lot of demons. Um, but it's that's that's obviously traumatic.
Mm.
Um, and there are so many dynamics to how um it it piggybacks off of other traumas that happen in my life and
It's
in my
rarely
brother.
just one thing. It usually all piles up at once. Like for me, it's always like a straw that broke the camel's back situation.
Right. Well, it's been yeah. Like I've had panic attacks, or at like I one of the things was like my mom passed away, and so dealing with that like that's where I think I was where I became complex PTSD. Um, because my mom passed, and so just dealing with that. I remember just I worked at Walmart automotive, and there's like this lower bay area. It's like in the ground cement floor,
Hmm.
and I remember they breaking OSHA laws. I was the only one in the shop, and I was in the pit, which is like double, triple whammy. I lost it. I just threw all the tools, and I flipped out, and I couldn't stop myself. Um, and that was just scary. And it happened two other times, and I finally I think after the second time I started getting help, but like mental help.
Mm.
But and I I was like I'm not the same, and so yeah.
So what are some? So once you had that realization, like what was your process after that? Like, did you go to someone that you know and ask for some advice? If there's something you know that you've been through something similar, or were you kind of in the dark as to what to do next?
Like okay, so like this like with my mom passing, or
I mean, whatever it was, you know, once you realized there was something you needed healing from, what was your process to get to the healing started?
what okay, so what happened after that was it wasn't just that thing. It was then my ex-wife left me.
Mm.
Um she asked me to leave, and I was like she was done with the marriage, and um I just said okay, and I left, and then she 2 weeks later she was with another dude, I guess. Like
Oof.
people like I cut her off, and but then I wanted to reconcile, and
Yeah.
it was shitty. Like she sent me Snapchats. Like we were on Snapchat, we were talking, but then like like when she wanted to announce to me, you know, she was dating some dude. She was like kissing him. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's so petty. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
So
such an immature, petty move, man. Like, I'm sorry, I know you're married to her, but that's fucked up.
oh no. So I was a petty ass little like small dick syndrome little bitch.
Little dick
Like,
energy.
dude, no dick energy. Like, and my best friend from college, Kellen, which he lives down in Texas. We were talking about it, and I'm like I found my actually looking at my divorce papers, and the understanding that what we turned in, or you know, that we put in the case was not what was actually on the paperwork. I never really looked at the paperwork. Like we set the thing, like we wrote it all out, but she like ended up giving me all the debt and took all the stuff. And I'm
Ugh.
like, what a cunt. Like you hear those, sorry, cussing, but
Oh, you're fucking fine, bro.
okay. Well, yes. So and I'm just like, and I was just like, you know, for once, like I've found a quality of life. I've
Mm.
found my self autonomy, which like that was never a thing like as a kid. Well, even up to like I was 24, 25. And then married. You know, like our marriage was fucked before it even began. And so you know, but I wish her the best now. But I wish her the best, but she's a cunt. So, and I hope
Yeah,
she watches it.
yeah. I'm fortunate. I don't really have. There's no one I dated that I really connected with that there's any hard feelings for. At least not that I'm aware of. Um, Maybe one, but I earned that animosity. But
Right.
but for the most part, like I'm fortunate. I don't really have a lot of that burdening me. But I mean, it's gotta be tough, especially like
Well, and I
from.
was toxic. Like I'm not saying it was all her. Like, dude, I was depressed. I just checked out of life, and and at that time I wasn't looking to get help. Well, I
Yeah,
was, but it wasn't like I didn't like I was still spiraling out of control.
right.
And so honestly, I'm just as guilty as she is. Whatever, you know, like neither of us are right or in the right in any way or whatever. Like I'm not. You know, I hope she is listening to this because I hope she's happy. Blue October song, but you know, I hope I'm gonna be happy as fuck. So,
Oh yeah, man, absolutely. I
and
mean,
that's been
well, it sounds like
my
you're in a
journey.
much healthier place. Like with
Oh
that,
yeah,
the biggest thing is like that like independence you were talking about, like being independently happy.
yeah.
That's something I struggle with daily, even like to the point now where like I've gotten like I haven't been on the Zoom chats and stuff like that a lot lately because I've been spending a lot more time just by myself, like not on social media, trying to
Oh
kind of cut out all the
well,
input from other people.
yeah. See, and that's the thing is that like I'm not on there as much either. But like, well, I do live with one of the guys that's on there. Like he's my
True, true.
landlord. Yeah, and so he's a fucking awesome dude, and I hope he's watching because he's a badass motherfucker. So,
He's okay.
oh yeah, you know
His hair though, his hair and that beard.
that
Oof.
beard. Oh,
Mm.
oh, is his hair? Oh,
Oh,
fabulous.
yeah. Like Urban Dictionary just needs like that photo under the definition of beard envy. And
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
I'd subscribe to that.
Oh, definitely. Only beards.
Something else that you
Yep.
were talking about too is like going back with other groups is like as big of a stereotype that men try to be like the strong independent type that don't really need others and always do their thing and are true to themselves in the face of anything. We are
Yeah.
very, very much community oriented creatures. Community
Oh, for sure.
oriented creatures. Hey, Justin, do a podcast. You talk good. We
Yeah.
like we really are products of who we're around a lot of times. I'm very,
Right.
very fortunate when I was younger. For the most part, I was around other, I was around ambitious, intelligent dudes that, for as many times as we pursued the wrong things like partying, girls, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately there's always the drive for success. And I'm really proud to say it. All my friends in that group are incredibly successful. And I think that a lot of that success goes to having other goal-oriented, positive people around you. I mean, for the most part, of course, when you're in your early 20s, early teens, like you're going to be doing dumb stuff. But, basically it's do dumb stuff and then do better afterwards and realize it, or just keep doing dumb stuff forever. And we see what happens with that.
So here's my thing, because I didn't get to start doing dumb stuff till after I got divorced.
No, what are you talking about? You did dumb stuff when you got married.
Well, oh, dumb. Yeah. Dumb. Actually, I'm really good friends with their brother. Like he's down in California. We're like brothers almost. He's part of my, my group, my tribe. And I'm like, he's like, I don't want to say how I remember, how I met you. I was like, yeah, we'll just say the universe brought us together. But
it's always interesting too, like after relationships, like seeing like what relationships, like usually, like I find myself missing like some of the family of people I used to date more than the people sometimes. Because I mean, I tend to, create bonds with these people. And of course, I mean, imagine if you were married to someone for any amount of time, like you're close with the family. So there's so much more of a split involved, and it's that intimate. I feel like when you have that much of a connection and everything. I'm sorry, you broke up.
He doesn't even talk to him. So, and I'm like, it's like we're both family then. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, then he's got his wife's family, but it is.
Yeah. That's cool. You're still tight with him though.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like my outside of just our group, like the Zoom family, like there's I've got a good buddy from youth group when I was a teenager. My good buddy Kellen down in Texas from college. Me and him rode in the back of a cop car together for the first time. Yep.
That is a good friend. Like you always have that friend. You're like, oh yeah, we'll be in jail together. Like you guys lived it, huh?
Yeah. Well, and I got a video, and I'll have to share it sometime. But I'm like, I made a video. I'm like, we're in the back of a cop car. It's Kellen and me, and I show him, and he's like, "Hi, mom." I in front of the cop car, and she like turned. I remember she turned around. She's like, "Stop it!" And I'm like, "Fuck you!" But oh yeah, so we lived it up, and so he's definitely a good guy, and so I've kept in contact with, and so it's been a beautiful thing, moving out here. I've wanted to live here since 2006 because of a college buddy that invited me up here, and so.
Do you want to say where you are, or just let people know?
Yeah, I'm in Linwood, Washington, like 15 miles north of Seattle. So.
How long have you been up there now?
Coming up on 3 years.
Okay, cool.
Which is actually the longest I've lived since 2011.
So long as you've been in one place since 2011?
Yeah.
Wow. Now you move around a lot for work, or just gypsy soul?
Just like the ex-wife, like we moved to Florida. We lived in Missouri.
That's where you should have stayed, bud.
Oh God, I would never ever live in freaking Florida.
Where in Florida were you?
Pensacola.
Oh, I take it back. Yeah, that place is a garbage heap. No, you made the right choice.
Yeah. So it was fun while it lasted. So.
Fair enough.
Okay, so here, I flew a kite like I was a good Christian boy. I flew a kite on Easter, out on the beach. Woohoo! But here I actually last year I smoked a joint at Jimi Hendrix's grave on his birthday.
That is a good way to commemorate that man.
Right? Exactly. So,
that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So what would you say were some of the toughest parts of like getting that healing done? Like for me, when I say, for example, like things that kind of go against the masculine the negative stereotypes of masculinity, being that for me, it was very, very difficult to step away from the job that I was working in because I felt like it meant that I felt like if I was walking away from a situation, I felt like it meant I failed and I wasn't able
Right.
to do that. And that made me weak. And then having to express that made me vulnerable. It just basically I just felt like I was less of a man for stepping away
Right.
from all of that. And I've told this story, numerous times on the show. But it's always so weird saying show, like it's a podcast. But
Whatever.
either way, whatever.
It's your thing.
I have weird little
You
hangups
do good,
about
dude.
being. Well, as soon as I said show, I realized other people are gonna watch this. Like not a lot, but some, and like I got self-conscious again. Anyway, yeah. You're gonna see me blush here in a minute if you have a high enough resolution. Yeah.
Do we need to take breaths? This is what I do for work. Do we need to take breaths?
All right, I'm better. I'll rock this.
All right.
But yeah,
actually,
so I had all these negative stereotypes in my head, being like, well, I can't admit this stuff because then I'm broken, then I'm weak, then everything I think about myself is true and it's going to be told me by other people. I was fortunate in that I got the opposite response I was expecting. That made me feel like I was less weak. But like, what was that process like for you?
Like I feel I got really emasculated by my ex-wife, and so, and then just like self-worth issues. Honestly, I realized that like most of my life I didn't know about self-autonomy. Like seriously, like last year I really the light bulb ding, it just went off. Like I finally understood it.
Like
Which
not being
like
codependent, you mean? Like
right.
self-autonomy? Yeah, it's just not being dependent on like another human, so to
Yeah,
speak.
being yourself, yeah, and embracing yourself and all that. And so and I'm like, and that's why I'm like, I've come to this point where I'm like, if I deserve me and deserve to be happy, and this is what we're going for. Like
So what's happiness look like for you?
happiness looks like for me, kayaking. Oh man, I love kayaking. That was like one thing I started up last year. I got me a kayak for my birthday, and um,
That's
and I
awesome,
went
dude.
kayaking. Oh yeah, I went like Puget Sound, Diablo Lake. Yeah.
I mean, it means nothing to me, but it sounds dope.
Oh yeah.
I've heard
Oh
Puget Sound. I don't know what it is. I've just heard it somewhere.
yeah. It's actually part of the ocean, but there's a the peninsula.
Yes. I know a lot about
So
peninsulas.
yeah. Oh yeah, you would. But there's the peninsula in Washington. So there's still technically ocean, and that's the Puget. It's Puget Sound. But
Gotcha. Okay. I thought it was pungent, like a lot of dead fish or something.
yeah, a lot of people say that. Well, in some it's dirty some places, but
I like anyone or anywhere.
yeah, I couldn't name any companies because if like they heard about this, they'd shut you down. I don't want to say that, but
That's not how I want to make it big, but thanks.
no, yeah. Well, that's why I'm like trying to be considerate.
The most people are going to see my podcast are when it's being played in front of a jury.
I plead the fifth.
Oh.
Oh,
Actually, the
God.
most it's probably watched is at FBI headquarters, but oh well.
Yeah.
I forgot to give them a show.
They have something to laugh at,
Hopefully, instead of just my memes all day.
They start their whole healing process.
I just want to meet my actual NSA monitoring agents so I can like send them a Christmas card or something.
Right. Well, here's to them as they're watching us.
Cheers, Frank and Jeff. How I imagine you in my mind.
Oh yes. Coffee.
So, what do you think is the biggest obstacle to men, getting mental help they need, like finding that kind of healing process? Like, what do you think stops so many guys? I think it's the fact that I think allowing yourself to feel the full spectrum of human emotion. A lot of that spectrum has traditionally been seen as feminine. Whether if you're, being like just the word sad,
right,
or the term like real men don't cry, things like that. It's like, well, no, we're gonna get sad, but if we're not allowed to express it as sadness, then it's gonna come out as anger. And I think a lot of people, it's something I was talking with a retired firefighter friend of mine the other day, and he'll be on the podcast soon too. But it's a lot of men express these other emotions as anger because we're frustrated. It's all like a secondary reaction to something else we're not dealing with or allowed to express.
It's the easiest emotion to elicit.
Right. Now, a lot of times
And,
when I do actually get angry, and a lot of times I get angry at myself for like allowing myself to be angry. Because there's also a factor. So as much as anger is typically a toxic expression of other emotions we're not dealing with, it can go too
right,
far the other way too. Because I've gotten to the point now where if I do get angry, and like trust me, like I don't get mad very often. I deal with anger very, very well.
right,
But when I get mad, ooh, it's a righteous fury. But then like I'll feel guilty about it. I feel guilty about being angry when anger, given the certain circumstances I'm experiencing it with, is probably totally justified. You know.
right, yeah,
So I mean,
I
I've never lashed out. I've never struck anyone out of anger before. But
right,
I still like feel
yeah,
even
I've
just being
never,
angry. I feel guilty and I feel like I'm a monster if not be able to control that emotion. But then
right,
I think we need to have a conversation about, well, what are some healthy ways for you to be able to express anger? Like when I get real mad, like when I physically manifest anger, I try to go find somewhere to exercise. I work it out,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, or take some plates I don't like and just smash them up somewhere, you know, like
mm,
just you got to, the release valve has to go, you know, otherwise it's going to burst and someone else is going to be hurt. Usually you're going to be
yeah,
lashed out. You're going to lash out at whoever the nearest target is typically.
right.
And
Hurt
usually it's
people hurt
someone,
people,
right.
and
It's
I
usually
hate
someone you
people.
love the most. And usually it's someone that doesn't deserve it.
Right, exactly.
So I think we
Yeah,
need to
and
be able to.
honestly, like I'll be honest, I had a moment recently, like just dealing with just bullshit. Like I was hurting, and my best friend, like my favorite person in the world, like I lashed out on her, and and I'm like, and I felt so fucking bad, and I know that I've like lost her trust, and it fucking sucks. But it's like owning up to that, and not just being like I'm sorry, but like I'm gonna have to like haul balls, you know, to earn her trust. And
Right.
so,
Well, an apology without behavioral change is meaningless.
right, exactly. And yeah, like, and I know that, yes, it's bullshit. So
Well, that's good you recognize that. I mean, that's
that
definitely, you know,
it's a
it's
lesson that I've obviously had to learn again. It's the same lesson, different teacher. Um, and this time, instead of running away from it like a little bitch, I'm facing it. So, you
and I
know,
think that's the kind of masculinity, that's that kind of strong man type that we can reinforce, where it's not, excuse me, where it's not suppressing how you feel about stuff. It's not being ashamed and running from your problems. It's stepping up and facing them. And just like I
right.
have like there's on days where I wake up and I'm feeling depressed, like I don't really listen to music or podcasts. I usually just listen to podcasts whenever I'm in the car, just have something going on. And but if I wake up feeling some kind of way, I'll drive in silence. You know, I enjoy driving. I feel very at home on the road,
Oh yeah.
and it's a place where I can just kind of turn stuff off and think, you know,
You
and
process
right. And
it just makes you
so I
better.
directly think like, okay, well, why am I feeling upset? What's stressing me out? Is there anything I can do about the things that are stressing me out? Yes. Okay, cool. What can I do about it? No. All right, then let's see if we can not sweat it quite as much.
Right. Yeah,
Those are ways I tackle it. Yeah.
I, and what's funny is that, like, as guys, like the mask, like I would say, like when that happens, um, we always want to fix things. Like we are taught that our worth is in what we can do physically.
Or provide. Yep.
Yeah. Um, and even like it's not only just like a societal thing. It's like in the church, religious indoctrination. If you can't provide for your family, you're worse than an infidel.
Well, I
Like
mean,
there's
think about back
real
in the day when
ideologies.
we're hunter gatherers. If you're someone that's not pulling their weight, then
You're dead.
you are useless. This is you're the thing you may drag
Right.
down the tribe. So
Right.
it's I think a lot of what we're seeing now is a symptom of society and technology advancing far faster than the human brain does. So we're still
Oh,
dealing. Basically, we're in a modern technological age, but we're still using our tribal brains.
right. Right. Yeah. There's some. Yeah. The
So there's a lot of that carries over, and a
right.
lot of that ends up becoming part of pop culture. If you look at some of the stereotypical strong male actors or like the lead stereotype characters from, back in the day, even, 30, 40 years ago. You watch that stuff now and you're like, homeboy's very, very toxic. That's a broken dude.
Yeah. Yep. And so,
So it's nice that we can recognize it now, but a lot of damage has been done. So that the healing, that being able to recognize your mistakes, I think it's important to recognize what causes you. If you can find what causes the behavior that causes you to offend people or causes you to cause harm to others, then that's a very important step. Then you can get to the root of it and modify it. But being able to be sincerely sorry and recognize that you failed and own up to it, I think that's an important step too. Because once you stop looking for scapegoats to blame it on someone else, like, oh, well, you did this, and so I got angry, and that's why I lashed out. Well,
right.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, of course, people can, of course, provoke you, but at the end of the day, like, you're responsible for the way you react to whatever it is you're reacting to.
That's it. Yeah. And that's like, and I think that's part of that unhealed bullshit that the small dick energy is that we don't want to take responsibility.
We're prideful creatures, so if we're
We are.
taking responsibility for something that's bad, you don't want to own up to that. You don't want to wear that. You're trying to wear medals of honor, not the scars and everything else that you've been, especially if you do it yourself and it's self-inflicted. Yeah, you don't want that kind of shame. You don't want the scarlet letter. You want the medals of honor.
Right. And so when you do that, you isolate. You
Yeah.
you cut yourself off. And so you eventually lash out either inwardly or outwardly, depending on your personality.
I
But
do it inwardly. Yeah.
yeah, me too. Yeah, it's totally self-defeating.
I
And so
isolate. I talk so much crap about myself. I
yeah.
and I it's weird too because like I know at the touch of a phone screen I can have the love and support of my community and my friends and my family like in an instant, but still like I don't, when I'm in that moment of like the depression and the anger and the self-loathing, I don't feel like I deserve it, so I won't reach out for it.
Right. And and it's like I'm the exact same way. Like I'm not in the Zoom chats as often, and when I am in there, like I slip in and I slip out, like in the
Yeah,
back.
you're very fleeting. Yeah, a Cody sighting is a rare occurrence sometimes. Like, wait, Bigfoot?
Yeah,
I saw him. I saw him.
I'm in the Pacific Northwest.
I mean, you might be. You're the Zoom version of Bigfoot.
I'll take it. But actually, come to find out, Bigfoot's just Winnie the Pooh.
Oh well, don't tell China.
Oh. Well,
Bigfoot will be banned pretty quick.
oh, well.
Yeah,
So,
no resemblance there though.
Oh no, none at all. None at all.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you're good. But being here in Washington, hiking, kayaking, camping, having a support group, my tribe, there's there's brokenness about family and trying to find that that identity, who am I, where do I belong, and we all go through that, and some people emotionally never get past that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that. And so and I've seen I've seen darkness take a lot, as well as the light has taken a lot too. And so and life is pretty chaotic, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, like, what would you say to if another young man or a guy came to you and said that, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. I messed up and I don't want to take responsibility for it, or I feel like I just got dumped and I don't feel valuable." Like what kind of someone's in a situation similar to yours, like, or I take it back. What advice would you give you now? What advice would you give yourself then when you were struggling with this?
That no matter what anyone says, you are worth it. So
What kind of
actually, and it's when it's funny because like there's a Blue October song called "Stay with Me" that's very near and dear to my heart, uh, due to like my my last acid trip.
Oh yeah,
So
so we've talked about how psychedelics can help with some of the process too, if you're in the right environment and in the right kind of mindset. Because what it
yeah,
does is a lot of times with psychedelics like psilocybin or LSD, it kind of removes the ego from the way you're processing the world and then thinking about things around you. So if you get kind of your sense of self away from it a little bit, it helps you see things from other perspectives. In my case, at least, in my alleged experience with psilocybin, it was helpful in seeing how my actions affect others and how in some ways, I mean, being someone that's very fiercely independent as me, like I don't even vote in the normal parties, but i I recognize the way my life even as an independent person affects those around me. So we're not independent of society, we're not independent of our neighbors, we're not independent of other human beings, and we really shouldn't be.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for me, it helped me get that kind of perspective. What did it kind of help you? Similar thing with the ego removal?
like it really has just launched me in this whole healing process. Um, and it was great like at the beginning, and then I helped some people move, and I realized I was coming down, and so I was like, uh-oh. And so me, I in Washington, was offered to go smoke some weed. So I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go chill. And nope, nope, that just sent me through another roller coaster. Um, and I thought I was gonna die. Like, but
Oh
like
my God.
I saw like my mom, like, and I talked to her, um, weird, crazy stuff. Um, and it's just been, um, I bawled my eyes out laying on grass, uh, confessing my love, um, and being a total dumbass, and then having my car, me and my car dropped off, and I'm just, pissed. I pissed off my roommate because I said I'd be there like an hour ago, but I didn't
Oh
tell him what
no.
happened.
Is everyone
So
everyone cool now?
yeah, like yeah, it was good. Like, and I felt like I had some moral, um, uh, laws, my own whatever. Like I crossed boundaries, and I made my amends, and I talked to him, and we're good, and um, got to spend Christmas with them. Um, they actually saved my Christmas and really kind of let me know that like I was loved. So
That's awesome, dude. So, well, it sounds like over that Christmas break, you kind of had the full, like talking about the full peaks and valleys of the human experience.
yeah,
Sounds like you went through all of that. You went high, you went a little too high, you went way down, and it sounds like you had some good people bring you back up.
right, exactly, yeah, exactly. So
So,
and
what are what are
I've never
some
been alone.
what are some like qualities like in that group that are so beneficial for you? Like, let's say if a guy's listening to this that maybe doesn't have the best friend group around, like what kind of interactions do you look for that are positive, that you find like uplifting friends? I mean, making friends as a dude, as an adult, is not an easy thing.
Right, yeah. Um, I try to branch out. Like I actually do have a brother that lives here in Seattle, and so he's a very introverted, self autonomous, does his own thing, and we don't talk much, but we're still there for each other, and it's just weird. Um, I kind of forgot the question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was saying like what are some good traits to have in your male friends?
Um, Ones that you can be honest with, obviously. but a lot of
Ones that are
times,
honest with you are important. Like
yeah.
me, my best friends, they call me on my shit, and I am so glad they do, because it makes me,
Oh, for real.
they're not, and also they do it in a way where they're not being d-bags. I mean, like the first statement will be
Right.
kind of douchey, just because, like someone told me recently that their love language was talking shit, and I'm like, you know what, I love that. That's hilarious. Because
Yeah.
what do you do is like some of your best guy friends. Like for me and most of my friends, like the people I love the most are the ones I rag on the hardest.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so like all the
Yeah.
friends
No,
that they'll call me, they'll listen, like, Justin, you're being a freaking idiot right now. Like, stop being stupid.
right.
But
No,
then
yeah, they can call me on my shit. Like
they
they
help me
like
fix what I'm doing though. Like it becomes
right.
constructive. It's criticism, then it's constructive. And like so like those are the people, like I want the friends that tell me I have stuff in my teeth. I want the friends that tell me I'm doing something bad. I want the friends that tell me
Right.
I'm out of line, or the ones
No,
that tell me my anger is
I've
not justified.
yeah, I've had friends that, or like my tribe that um has said, that was fucking bullshit what you did. And I have to, yep, I'm I'm that dude. Like,
Yeah.
um but they're also the ones where I'm like, hey, I'm down 68 pounds, and they're like, fuck yeah. And so
The
um
dynamic friends, the ones that are there to support you, and the ones, I mean, it's
right,
supportive the entire time, but the ones that are there that lift you up, and also the ones that knock you down when you need to be knocked down a little bit. They'll still be back
right,
up again, but every now and
right,
then we got to realize that we're not, God's gift to the
right,
world, and we need to be a little humble
right,
sometimes
exactly.
about some stuff.
Yeah. It's when that shitty stuff comes up, and uh, we lose track sometimes. But they're the ones that'll slap us around and then drag our ass to
Yep.
where the right way.
Yeah, so like if I had to make a list off the top of my head of like traits I would look for in like my male friends, I'll probably just start listing some of the ones that I have with my male friends, and that is people that are ambitious. If you're ambitious and wanting to improve your life, then that's going to bleed off on everyone else around you as well, and it's going to keep encouraging me to do the same thing with my life, and then we kind of go back and forth like that. Like I remember in high school, I had a buddy was dating someone, and she like complained one day because she's like, Justin, I hate the way he gets when like you guys hang out. Like he's so cocky, and like he's like, you guys just lift each other up so much. Like we were constantly being like, oh, what's up, dude? You look jacked today. You working out? And just stuff like that. It's constantly being each other's hype men, and like that kind
Right,
of enthusiasm. Like we're joking and messing around, saying silly stuff, but like it it
right,
matters. It has an impact. It makes you feel better. And that
right,
kind of confidence, you put that kind of confidence into what you're going after, being like, you know what, I can do this. Not because I'm being, you know, spiteful or because I want to exert my power. It's like, no, I can do this because I can do it because it's something positive for me and I'm going to make it happen. And like that is
right.
big dick energy. That's what you want to have
I-
in your friends. That's a positive manifestation of the male drive to succeed.
exactly.
What we need to do
And
is we need to recognize all the different things that make a man what we are. In a lot of cases, we do have that drive to protect and to provide. There's ways that can be manifested positively. There's ways you can do that are negative. We are we're prideful. We want our reputations to have an impact. We want a legacy to leave behind for the most part. We like challenges. We want to go after these things. Like once you recognize all these different things that drive us, you can harness it. You can style it and direct it in ways that are more positive.
yeah, and I remember I remember being told once that the only way I'll leave a legacy is that if after I'm passed, um, my name goes on. And that was like not only like bearing kids, but like I had to leave something worthwhile towards humanity.
Right. Like I've always thought the only route to immortality is the legacy you leave behind. And
Right.
that always kind of drove me, especially throughout my career. And I was always like, oh no, I have to be, known for this. I have to make sure that my name is being spoken by the people that matter, blah, blah, blah. And then I, I kind of had an epiphany, years into my career where I was thinking about my, what I was leaving behind, because I had a close call on one of the scenes that I almost didn't make it out of, and I started really like, having those close brushes with death, of course, gives you some extra perspective, especially when it's a personal one. And I was
Right.
like, what? I was like, no, I'm like, I can't, like when the light flashed before my eyes, I was like, I can't die yet. I got so much more to do. And I thought about it for a second,
Right.
and I'm like, you know what? My legacy is secure, not because of my job or any of that, but because when someone's having a bad
Exactly.
day, I smiled at them. I gave someone a genuine
Right.
compliment. Or I was there to help my friend move when only two other dudes showed up. Like
Right.
people might not know. No, people aren't gonna know my name a few years after I die, but people are gonna carry that kind of positivity that I exerted upon the world forever. That's
Exactly.
because that ripple effect,
Doing
like this,
good
the smile I
things.
gave someone, they're gonna smile at somebody else, and that's gonna make their day a little
Yeah.
better, and it's just gonna
Yeah. Doing
snowball
good
into this.
things to people for no incentive is like a true like blessing. It's a good feeling. Like you get those good vibes when
Yeah,
you can do that.
I think I think that's one of the most powerful things a man can do is be that
Oh,
positive
sure.
influence. And again, it doesn't take us moving mountains like we always want to.
Yeah.
Sometimes just getting out of bed and putting that smile on your face at all is moving a mountain for you that day. But you're
Right.
gonna move it.
Yeah. And so and it's just crazy just how like as you heal, as you're getting healthy, um, just how God or the universe or whatever powers that be, um, how it brings people together. And so it's a very beautiful thing because it's actually not within um, the typical Western Christianity. So,
It's important to think
but
outside the box. It's
it
important to be
really is.
exposed to different ideas, different methods of doing things, and
Right.
it's how you learn. It's how you grow. At the end of the day,
Right.
if you're not growing, are you living? I don't think
Yeah,
so.
exactly. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's been an awesome adventure. Going back to Missouri, tragic situation and a lot of dark, a lot of triggers, a lot of demons per se, a lot of things I was running from that, um, like I was like, I will deal with it when I can, and I was, and I put that into the universe or whatever, that was what I had my faith in, and it happened, and so it was not a very beautiful time. It was crazy, chaotic, you know, and triggering. But I got to see some of my Chai family, Naked Brian, and
Yeah, I've seen a lot of him.
yes, more than I would like to say that I would want
Yeah,
to.
he earned that first part of the name.
Oh, for sure. But
Yeah.
granted, he was clothed the whole time I was hanging out with him. Granted, I did get pretty wasted, so
You might have been naked Cody.
yeah. Well, he dropped me off at what I told him was my Airbnb, which it was, but like I was sloshed. So
Did you ever have trouble with any substances when you were going through your healing process? Did you ever turn to alcohol or anything like that? I hit alcohol
I
hard for a while.
see. No, that was the thing is that um once I started healing, I was that good Christian guy where I barely drank, and now through my charity organization, um, that like I drink more now, but I keep it. I'm mindful of that. I've got accountability. Um,
That's good. Yeah.
yeah, and actually since that getting sloshed and all that, like I really haven't drank much. Maybe one or two beers like a week.
Mm.
So it's been I'm mindful. I'm like, okay, maybe we need to put the brakes on it. That's we don't want to come out from a traumatic experience and just go down that road. And so
Yeah. Well, especially with alcohol, it's such an important thing to recognize when you're feeling upset. Like when again, if I'm feeling any kind of like I'm very fortunate that I'm pretty good at identifying when I'm not feeling great. Like, I mean,
right.
I'm good at externalizing it where I'm like, oh, okay, hey, you don't feel good today. Probably shouldn't drink. It's a depressant. You're on a spiral, bud. So,
Exactly. You know,
so a
when,
lot. I
when you're
always say like
winning,
all things in moderation, including moderation. But it's important to recognize when that moderation is needed. And sometimes, like there have been times where my friends were all planning to go out, hit the bars, do some drinking, and I'll be like, you know what? Like I'm not feeling a good mental place to be drinking tonight.
yeah, yeah. And so, and I went out drinking, or I went out to a bar, uh, and like I wanted to be DD. I had one beer in like 4 hours. I drank a ton of water. Like I'm like, it's a bar I know, they know us. It's but like when I go, I don't get sloshed. Like, but just I rewarded myself, maybe not in the most healthy way, but honestly, it was like I found connection, and I got sloshed. So like that's what I want. Like that's my biggest need is connection and
Yeah.
love, and I think that's what everyone wants. And so,
You think it's tough for men to find that kind of connection due to some of those stereotypes we've been talking about?
oh yeah, for sure, yeah. Um, it's been hard, and like I've had tough conversations um, with some drunk men that like I know that they've went through hell and back, and they just needed somebody to listen. And I'm like, dude, you're killing my buzz. I didn't say that, but like I listened because that's just what I do. um, but I was glad to be able to help them and not be like, oh, look what I did. And I'm not saying that on here for that, but I'm just saying
No,
that.
yeah. Well, it's important to recognize that too, because it's for men. Like I've talked about this in other episodes before, but like a lot of times men turn to drinking with their friends because if you drink, then it lowers the inhibitions. You can finally express things like that. So like that stereotype
Yeah,
of like the drunk veteran talking about what's happened to him before. It's like, well, maybe he's only able to express this stuff when he is drinking because otherwise he's self-conscious about it and doesn't. And it's not
I
a positive
actually
thing
haven't.
to cope that way, but I recognize when it happens because I used to do that. I used to be the one that I just want to get hammered so I could talk about stuff. If I was stressed out, I'm just on drinks. That's the only way I'd be able to actually experience any kind of part of it. And then if I was lucky, I didn't remember it the next day anyway.
That's how my family does it. Like, brother, uncle, um, yeah, other family, like, and even friends. It's you able to let go, and so um, but when you can let go in a healthy manner and not project, but when you can process with someone, it's healthy. Like us talking about this now, just even us talking about it, and we've talked about it before, but being able to we set the mindset, we change our mindset, and we had to replace it. And as we talk about it, it replaces that. We're changing our mindset.
And we're
It's
changing the narrative around the whole thing too. We're changing the perspective because having men talk about this kind of thing in a way that like I'm not ashamed of it, obviously.
right,
You're not ashamed of it, obviously.
right.
It's important. And even though like I'll say like, oh, I'm not ashamed of it, that's why I can put it out there. My friends can ask and my friends can ask you. My friends can tell you, that I had someone or something I wrote recently that I didn't want to put out there. And
Hmm.
then I was asking someone about it and she was like, are you gonna share it? And I'm like, I wrote it as if I would, but I don't know if I will. I feel self-conscious about it. And she was like, that's
Oh yeah,
exactly why you should share it then. So like I'm
yeah.
not I'm not this confident dude. I'm insecure
Oh
as
no,
hell, and
oh
I I
no.
I I just
I've
confidently talk about how broken I am.
I've sent things and then I'll delete them. I've posted things, delete them. And I've had friends that'd be like, "Don't do that shit," and I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
it's
I do a lot of rewrites. Well, not a lot of rewrites. Well, I do uh, a lot of double checking whenever I write. Like I'll read it repeatedly because
right.
I just don't like grammatical and spelling errors. I'm like, there's not really an excuse for that anymore.
Yeah.
And but B, like I want to, I try to like read it as if I'm not me and see like how it comes off. Just very,
Dude,
because
and,
like as
okay,
great as the written word is, it's
that's
very easy to misconstrue things sometimes.
it really well, and that's a thing for I think for that, certain people like struggle with is that like for me, uh and it's personality types, and that like that intuitive like um feeler, like I'm an ENFJ, so extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judging, and so like there's 16 different personality types, but my personality type, like I try to perceive what their perception of me is,
It's a
and
very empathetic trait. Yeah.
right, yeah, yeah, and there's empathy, like um, it, there's empathy is like the healthy part of that, like the high vibes, the big dick energy,
Uh-huh.
like, but the low dick energy is like um when you like personalize it and or
Make it
like
about you instead of being about others. I mean, it can be bad either way, but again,
right,
I would say
right,
like if you inherently lean towards the selfish side of things and making everything about you, then that's particularly bad.
right, right. And there's and these guys that I think um yeah, there's I've dealt with that, I struggle with it. Um, and I've been called out on my shit on that. And so um and I know up to it, and that's part of that healing process in which I am in, and it's beautiful. It's fucking tragic, chaotic bullshit, but you know,
So it makes it
there
beautiful. If there wasn't, if everything was one big easy button, then and there wasn't struggle and there weren't things to triumph over, then
right,
I don't think we'd find nearly as much meaning in life itself.
right,
I think humans on a certain level need some kind of struggle. And of course, I'm not saying I want anything like what, we've been through to happen to other people, but the fact of the matter is it's a broken world and we're all trying to get by through it. Just trying to
right,
at least,
exactly.
if the world we live in is broken, then, we can at least do our best to hold each other together.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
for
I want to wrap up on a happier note. So speaking of your
yeah,
healing and your journey, talk about something that you're most proud of yourself for now.
um living in Seattle.
Making
Um
that move.
living in Washington, Seattle, like going on these hikes, these healing hikes. Like I just went on a hike with this telephone in the woods, and it's no line. It's just you pick it up and you talk to somebody that's deceased in your life, as if you were calling them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I bawled like a baby. I was the only dude, and I bawled like a baby, and I was the only one that bawled. And I'm like, there's some still repressed emotions there. So,
It sounds
you
like you
know,
cried. Sounds like you cried like a man.
yeah, I cried like a man, and I don't, I'm not ashamed of that, but it's just like I'm glad it came out, and it just means that it's still in that healing process. So, so I'm just grateful to be doing, um, finding my quality of life, my autonomy, my healing adventure here. So, this is
That's
home.
awesome, man. Taking that
Oh,
power, and showing
exactly.
yourself how powerful you really are when you
That's right.
put effort into being the person you want to be and taking the healthy, difficult steps to become that evolved person that you want to emulate. That's how you leave
Exactly.
yourself a legacy.
Exactly. I'm doing it. Like, like I know. As I'm healing, I am still a badass, and I'm worthy, and I deserve love, and love will come to me. And by doing that, as I'm uh, healing myself, it's comes full circle, and
It's
it's
awesome, man. Well, hey,
yeah.
I love you. I think you and
I
your
love
entire
you,
life is
Justin.
beautiful, and I'm really, really thankful you came on to talk with me tonight. And of course, we're
Thanks
gonna
for
do it over
having me.
Zoom again soon, anytime. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, I think this is really, really important stuff, and I love that, somehow through whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm getting people that want to share their stories too, and the momentum keeps
yeah,
building. Like it's really, really awesome and really, really humbling seeing how me just starting talking about stuff is becoming part of something a lot bigger.
yeah.
This is a national narrative where men across the country are coming out and being like, "Hey, I cry sometimes. What of it?"
Right,
I get
exactly.
I get sad. Come at me. It's like where we've got two options. We can repress it and we can have toxic manifestations of it, or we can man up, face our emotions head on, and deal with this.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is exactly how we do it. So once again, man, I can't thank you enough. Had a lot of fun, and I'll definitely see you again sometime soon. For
All right,
those of you
buddy.
watching and listening, thank you so much for sticking around with us and hanging out. I am, like I said, I'm really, really stoked for everyone that's been showing support and sharing it, talking about it,
Yes.
volunteering to come on and chat.
Share, share,
It's
share.
awesome. If you've got a story that you want to tell, whether it be something you've struggled through, your triumphs, whatever kind of legacy you want to leave behind, I would be stoked to have you come on and talk about it and be part of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys so much. Like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is figure out a way to love yourself, and then you'll love other people a lot better.
Exactly. Love you guys. Love you, Justin.
Love you too,
You're back.
Cody, and love all you out there too. Bye. Stay good. Stay healthy.